Alright, here's the second IF can taken apart, and there's the silver mica capacitor. It's just a thin piece of mylar, I believe, with some other stuff on it in silver, and you can see where it started to migrate through. So what I need to do next is those little, I'll get it to focus here. You can see those metal tabs there. I need to either remove those or put some type of insulating material underneath them. I don't like to just put some insulating material underneath them. I'm always afraid that that will actually create its own capacitance there and throw it off. So I'll probably just bend them up and bend them out of the way. But there's a very thin wire. You can probably see there just a little bit. Got to be careful I don't break that wire off. So we'll go ahead and do that and put them back together. And then we'll mount new silver mica capacitors underneath the chassis on them. This is what I ended up doing for the tabs that held the old mica capacitors in there. I just bent them up like this. In the past I've cut them off and broke that thin wire that runs along there. Decided it really wasn't necessary. I just bent them up and out of the way, and I'll leave them there. I shouldn't have to back that ferrite core down that far, so it shouldn't cause any problems there. This is our speaker that came out of the S-38B. We've got some rust we need to repair here, or fix, or take care of. And you can see we've got some holes here and here and here. What we're going to try to do is we're going to try to save this. I'm going to go ahead and cut some patches out of this coffee filter. I'd like to have a white one, but all I have is a brown one. So I'm going to cut some patches out of that, and then I'm going to use this Aleene's original tacky glue. We're going to tack it over that and see if that doesn't do the job for us. What I do with the patch is I cut the patch out to the size I want it. Then I apply the tacky glue and smear it all over so it's evenly distributed. Then I'll go ahead and put it in place. You can see I've already put this one on here, and that looks pretty good. I'm going to cover this one, then I got to cover that area there. Then I got an area down here I need to cover. And I think there's one more up in here. This is what we have after we did our patching. Ended up being a little bit more than I originally thought we'd have to do, but found more tears. Other than that, you know, the key to that is making sure you get the adhesion. You got to clean the cone real good. I used a toothbrush, soft toothbrush, clean the cone real good before I did it. Then was very careful to make sure that all my edges were glued down. They laid down pretty good, so I'm hopeful that it's going to turn out all right. Now on this gasket that goes around here, there's some rust on there, and I don't want to put that up against the metal, so I'll probably take some flat black paint or something. That gasket's not made out of metal, but I'll probably take some flat black paint in there, you know, paint that before we put it back up. So as well as removing that and then painting those surfaces. So hopefully we'll end up being able to get some decent quality sound out of it. They're not particularly a unique speaker, so if we have to find another one for it, we can. But I always like to try to save the original. Spent most of the day doing a little bit of research on the S-38B project. Interesting thing I found, the IF cans are 50C 531s and a 532. They're these smaller cans. Most of the schematics I find on the S-38B use the larger cans. but this one has the smaller ones. But the chassis is set to where it can use either one of them. You can see here. I really couldn't. I've seen these in the S-38Cs. The one of my uncles that I did had the larger cans, but the schematics, when you download them, they show and list these smaller ones. So my guess is this was one of the latter S-38Bs that was produced. So I've taken the mica caps out, internal mica caps out of these. I'm going to put them back in, then I'm going to mount extra 100 PF caps on it and see if I can get them to resonate at 455 kilocycles. So I'll mount those next. Now the other thing I found, all the schematics for all the S-38 series I find on the audio output transformer use a different transformer than what was in here. And in fact, based off these numbers and a lot of research, this the only other radio I could find was a version of an old Belmont made in the 40s or 50s. So this obviously is not the correct audio transformer. So I'm going to have to either find a used one, or more preferably, hopefully I can find a modern replacement for it. The ones for the S-38 series have 5 wires coming out of them. There's a second tap, and that's for the headphone. That's for the headphones. The other thing that we found is we retested all the tubes on the Hickok, and they actually tested okay. The only problem I see right now, this is the rectifier, and it's a little bit loose in the base, so I'm going to go ahead and apply a little bit of super glue in there to hold it in there, hopefully preserve that for a little bit longer. And then here's how the speaker patching came out. Actually, I know it doesn't look pretty, but it's actually laid in there really nice. I think it's going to work real good. I may slap a little bit of flat black paint on it so it doesn't stand out quite so much. I still have to remove the rust off the back of it and touch that up. So we'll go ahead and get the IF cans put back in there, and maybe go ahead and solder the caps on the bottom of it. The other thing I'm going to do is I had this old electrolytic capacitor. I haven't done this before, but I'm going to attempt to go ahead and melt that, remove the wax, and restuff it, and try to use this one so it looks a little bit better underneath. We're going to do some work on the underside of the chassis. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to apply some super glue to these terminals so that they don't move up and down and break that thin wire off on the inside. Then we'll reattach those into the chassis, and I'm going to start by putting 100 PF mica capacitors on those. If we need to, we can add some 20s on top of them if we need 120, but that should probably get those cans to resonate on 455. Then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to remove this. I was going to try to restuff some of these. Went out and got a heat gun and tried to get the insides out of them. Wasn't very successful. I need to practice that a little bit more. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go ahead and replace that with these new electrolytic capacitors, and we'll mount that in there. It's already been recapped with newer style caps, so it's not really going to make any difference. And then we're probably, I believe this cap right here is the line cap. We'll replace that with a safety cap. Then we'll go ahead and go through and check resistors. Some of them I've checked a little bit, and there's quite a few that appear to be out of tolerance. We'll go ahead and check those and replace what we need to replace. We'll also rewire the chassis so that the switch will be on the hot side instead of the neutral side to make it a little bit safer. So I'm going to go ahead and start by working on this, and we'll get that done first, and then we'll move on to the electrolytic capacitors. We need to replace this filter cap here that's actually has 4 capacitors in it. So what I've done is we've taken a 60 UF, 240 UFs, and a 20 UF, mounted it on this terminal strip. I've pre-attached the wires to it like this so that they match the wiring diagram or the wiring codes on this. I'll go ahead and snip that out, and we'll mount this to the underside like that, and then reattach those wires here. And then we'll move on to some of the other stuff. Now the other thing I'm going to do here right now is these glass tubes are a little bit loose in the base, so I'll go ahead and take some of this gel super glue and put 3 or 4 drops around that, set them aside, and let that harden. That way when we put those back in, hopefully that'll extend the life of these tubes. And what I've read about this, main thing is need to make sure that you keep the navel jelly wet while it's working. Okay, it's been about 10 minutes. We're going to start taking some water and trying to get this off of here. Okay, here's the results after 2 coats of the navel jelly. Looks a lot better. So the next thing we'll do is we'll go ahead and paint it. And like I said, or put a little bit of paint around that gasket. I didn't want to remove that gasket because the cone seems to be attached to it. So we'll go ahead and put some paint on that gasket, so when we reattach it to the radio, hopefully that won't cause any rusting problems. While I'm waiting on some other stuff, I thought I'd go ahead and do some minor housekeeping here. So we're going to go ahead and clean the tube sockets. I'll just take this pipe cleaner, spray it with a little bit of deoxit D5. And then we'll just run it up and down the sockets here. I'll take the other end and try it out like that. or go ahead and do the rest of them. After cleaning out the tube sockets with the deoxit, we're going to go ahead and get the switches, band pass, or the switch there, band switch, and then we'll do the volume control and the on off here. The other thing that I did is that screw that on this particular adjustment, mica adjustment, was completely rusted. I had to take a small Swiss file and file out the slot on the screw just a little bit. I cleaned it out and then filed it out. Used a little bit larger handled screwdriver. Was very careful and backed it out. So what I do with that is I drop it in a little bit of navel jelly, clean that up, and then probably seal the top of it and put that back in. I also drop this nut here in there and clean that off, and clean the shaft off here, and a couple other spots with some navel jelly, and seal that so we don't get any more rust. So we'll go ahead and start squirting some deoxit in these switches and work them back and forth. Seems to be loosen them up a little bit too. Let's get this one up here. Yeah, that's working better now. Alright, do the band switches here in a little bit and the volume control, and then we'll be done with that part. Temporarily put one of the knobs back on the band switch, and we'll go ahead and spray it with some more D5 and rotate the band switch around. And I usually go ahead and put some G5 gold on it, try to protect it. Okay, we'll go ahead and do the volume and on-off switch the same way. The ultrasonic cleaning did a pretty good job of cleaning these right here, but getting a little bit of rust forming back on it. So I'm going to go ahead and put some of the navel jelly on that, and then after we get it cleaned up, we'll seal those probably with clear coat or maybe some silver paint. I'm going to do a little bit more de-rusting with the navel jelly. I've got some small parts here. Here's the screw and kind of washer cap or whatever from the one mica adjustment on the bottom of it. Then I've got these other ones here, and then I've got a few shafts and stuff on the radio I'm going to do. So I don't waste so much of the navel jelly. I'm going to go ahead and pour a little bit into this medicine cap here, and then we'll let the parts soak a little bit and then clean them up and see what happens here. Okay, here's these small parts after treatment with the navel jelly. By the way, while I was working with the navel jelly, I did put neoprene gloves on for safety, so kind of keep that in mind. We've also neutralized the rust on these. I need to go ahead and get something and put on that so it doesn't re-rust. Interesting, you can see whatever they use for the tuning cord here held on to a lot of moisture and caused those to rust. But overall, I think we've got it cleaned up now as good as we're going to get it. So we're finish up the electrical restoration, and we're waiting on a few parts. As soon as we get those, we'll try to fire it up and see what we have. Alright, we're just about ready to try this thing out for the first time. You can see we've mounted the new audio transformer that we got from Radio Days, the RDX 300. Got it wired up. Then underneath, we went through and checked and replaced all the out of tolerance capacitor or resistors. Down here on the IF transformers, we've added our 100 picofarad silver mica capacitors on it, on both sides there. Cleaned up a bunch of the wiring here. Have our audio transformer wired in there. You'll probably notice, if you're sharp, you notice that we're missing the gimmick capacitor in there. It was taken out before we started working on the set. We're going to attempt to create a different BFO on it, but for right now we wanted to go ahead and try to see if we get any sound on it. First thing we're going to do is hook it up to a dim bulb tester, make sure we don't have any shorts or anything like that, and then we'll go ahead and put the tubes back in, see if we can get some sound out of it. The other thing we've done is we went ahead and put a new cord on it with a wide blade on it. We've rewired it. We added this additional terminal strip over there, and then we added the additional terminal strip over here, and re-ran our wires so that we're actually switching the hot side of it. So hopefully they'll provide some additional safety. Here's a final update for this particular episode. We got all the electrical or electronic restoration done except for the BFO. I restrung the dial cord with proper dial cord, as you can see in there. We've went ahead and repainted the dial pointers and reattached the dial plate on it. Got the light in, and as you can hear, the speaker works pretty good. I've got it, we haven't done an alignment on it yet. This is just a preliminary turn on, and it actually works pretty good on the standard local radio AM band. It's a little bit off alignment, but obviously it's working. I haven't even done the alignment on the IF transformers after replacing the mica capacitors on it. So that's a good sign. The next step we'll go ahead and I'll do an alignment on it, and then as soon as the parts come in, I'm going to build the BFO and put it in. In the meantime, we're finish up the cosmetic restoration by putting on the decals on the case, and we also have to make a new knob. But as soon as we get that done, it's pretty much we're on the downhill roll. So for now, this is KB0ASQ signing off until next time.